Welcome, everybody, to the LBSU Sports Show, the first podcast edition. Alongside me is Brianna Wangsupong, and I am your host, Justin Gans. It's great to see you, Brianna.
hmm
First thing I want to talk about that we have on the docket is the most recent games for Long Beach State men's volleyball. They
Yeah.
managed to get a three-set sweep in both going against Fort Valley State and then on banner raising night against the LAU Sharks last weekend. What are your thoughts on the takeaways from last weekend's uh, sweep, I would say, in both games?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been exciting, it's been exciting just to watch the men's volleyball team come out again, and, protecting their title. I think they're, like you said, they swept every single team there was, and that was really exciting to watch. I did not go to the banner raising. Unfortunately, I was sick, but I know Justin, you have, and I know that it was such a big night for the crowd and everything, and just seeing that 2025 banner, you know, out
Being
there
raised
is,
to the rafters too, and
yeah.
all the players getting honored.
Mhm.
Um, with me being part of that 2025 team, obviously it was a special moment for me. But one thing that I want to mention is after the game, Connor Bloom mentioned to the press media at the press conference that they did a lot of their celebrating in March, in May, in June. So I definitely would attest that as the banner is mostly for the community and the crowd there. So it was great
Yeah.
to see a lot of students out there. We had the band out there for the first time. So it was great to hear the beach band. Always a great college atmosphere when you get the band
Yeah.
out there. Obviously, Long Beach State is 7-0 on the season. They will be taking on Pepperdine Waves from the Firestone Fieldhouse for the final time at that arena, as Pepperdine will be getting a new arena starting next year.
Yeah.
Last year, the Beach went to Malibu to take on the Waves, and they managed to get a five-set reverse sweep. And then they met in the semifinals of the NCAA National Championship, where the Beach won in 4 sets. Brianna, you're going to this game tomorrow.
Yeah.
Obviously, we saw big things last week from Jackson Christ and Skylar Varga, and also Connor Bloom stepping up for the Beach.
Mhm.
What are your expectations
Yeah.
coming
Well,
into this game?
I got a lot to say, and I'm excited that I'm going to be able to go to Pepperdine to shoot and photograph. I think as the Beats are coming down from literally last year and winning their title, we have seen a lot of improvements and we have seen a lot of losses that are good losses and a lot of lessons and a lot of new things going on inside the environment, inside the, team. We're talking about, we're going to be talking about Coach McRae, his first time coaching, since Alan Knipe took the position back in 2001. Coach Emir, Coach McKay, as well as new rookies sensations Jackson Chris, Wojciech Gajek, and as well as you know, players like Miles Jordan and Braden Marquardt, who has transferred from GCU. I think it's going to be a collectively, you know, talented team, and we've seen that from our North American Challenge, from our recent plays, and we have won, and we're not, and we are undefeated right now. And I think I'm excited to see these new players going against a competitive team like Pepperdine. The one of the first teams of the season that is going to be, at least it's going to be challenging um Long Beach State. We have players like Ko Hartke, and who also plays for the national team with Jackson Chris and Kellen Larson. I think um players like him, as well as Ryan Barnett and Jacob Rowley, they are gonna bring in some heat to the Long Beach State team, and I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see McRae, giving these opportunities, and let's talk about that. So McRae has almost given more opportunities for players like Daniel Hirschnovich and Miles Jordan and Gajek to play and to show, Long Beach Nation and to show other people what these players um, have on their plate. What do you think, Justin?
I definitely think what Coach McRae has done is basically having Daniil Hirschengovich and Wojciech Gajek split time when there is a back-to-back scenario. Last week, Wojciech played for the game against Fort Valley, and then Daniil would come in Wojciech has said that him and Daniil have this really good bond with each other and just they've been helping each other out and stuff. And having Daniil have this leadership to him, especially um, teaching a young freshman, I think it's definitely a huge, important role for him, especially for a young player like Woj. But I definitely think this weekend against Pepperdine on Friday night, definitely going to be a lot of packed energy from the crowd there. And I
Hmm.
definitely think that Long Beach State have a great opportunity to get the victory. Obviously, players like Jacob Riley and Cole Hartke have been a really good force for this Pepperdine team. So I think Long Beach State will have a really tough matchup. Obviously, taking on Pepperdine, they are
Hmm.
a team ranked in the top 10 the
Yeah.
APA poll that recently just came out. So they've had a tough uh, week last week as they managed to take on Loyola Chicago and Lewis University. So Pepperdine's coming back from that road trip and to take on top team like Long Beach State, being the reigning defending NCAA champions. I think it will be a great matchup overall
Yeah.
for both teams.
And we have a lot to expect too. Pepperdine, last year they were deep in the NCAA tournament, and their high preseason ranking, they're, number four, like you mentioned, in top 10. We got players who know how to play, who have played alongside Long Beach State players, so they know what to expect. Let's talk about Coach McCray a little bit more. He is the first coach since Alan Knipe to take over, and one of the things, two things that I written down that I really love to mention is Coach McCray's, um, he is very detail oriented within the way he coaches, as well as he is people over product. He's always understanding every player's, strengths and weaknesses, and um, he knows how to incorporate that within the team. I've mentioned that, he establishes people over product mindset, and he's definitely, and as we mentioned, as we seen from Coach Alan Knipe, and what Coach McGray is doing right is that he knows what it is to be a family, and he knows what each player needs. He's not only working on one player, right? He's working as a team collectively, and how each player could support other players. He's always in the interviews talking about, the other players that have helped, the main players of the night. We've mentioned Bren Braun, was who I remember, he was talking about in the conference, how he's, working with a lot of the middle blockers like Woj Gayek, as well, sorry, like Jackson Christ and Isaiah Prude, and they're working together and supporting each other within every way of the season.
Yeah, and overall, I think that Um, Jackson's definitely played a key role coming in as a rookie as well. Ben has definitely been teaching him a lot.
Hmm.
And then I would say probably, like I mentioned earlier, Daniil helping out Woj at the outside. I'm sorry, opposite. And then you have your mainstays like Skylar Varga and Connor Bloom playing at that outside position for Long Beach State. And one change that they made this year in terms of position change, Dane Hillis, number 17, switching from a serving sub to a libero position as when they played LAU, Dane and Kellen Larson, the other libero, started for Long Beach State. So they had a two libero system that they rotated in. And I think that has been a really just new style play for Long Beach State and putting in the rotations for that. Overall, I think Coach McCray and assistant coaches McKay Smith and Amir Lugo Rodriguez have done a great job overall as a coaching staff throughout this early season. Obviously, McCray being an associate head coach last year to Alan Knipe, a lot of people knew that Coach Nick McCray would be the next one charge. He is from Long Beach. He's all about having the Long Beach community be engaged, and I think it's just a really great um, thing to show that we're not just a small community out at Long Beach. This team, helps the community grow, and a lot of
Yeah.
people just care about our men's volleyball team and just being more community oriented.
Hmm.
And I think Nick
Yeah.
goes into great detail for each conference or each press conference, I should say, and just giving back to community and just thanking everybody for showing up to the games. And I really appreciate that, especially
Love
with
that.
being
Yeah.
on the team and getting to know the players, getting to know the coaches well.
Yeah.
And I really think it's huge. One thing that he mentioned in his last press conference is that it's always, we take it one day at a time, one practice at a time, one game at a time, and to be basically the better version of yourself each and every
Yeah.
day. And overall, this team helping each other 10%, everybody giving it 10%. That way it can be a 100% collective. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't say that's just from the player's perspective, but also the supporting staff as well.
Yeah. So a little bit about Nate McCray is, he has coached under Alan Knipe, who's one of the best coaches, in volleyball history. And what McCray is doing and what McCray is, following is like you've mentioned yourself, he's looking for 10% in everyone, right?
Mhm.
And that's one thing that I really do, you know, appreciate it and love. And let's talk about the pressures a little bit. We have a lot of pressures. We got one of our main volleyball players, Moni Nikolov, transitioning into the professional side for volleyball. We lost, players who are seniors like Naola Dickinson and McRaven.
And
And
Satir Saponis going
there we go.
play. Satiris and Nito Dickinson and Moni all going to play professionally,
Hmm.
losing a player like Noah Robin due to just him graduating.
Yeah.
I definitely think, he lost the guys and the NCAA having a budget cut of 25/23 players on the team to 18 definitely um, puts a lot of pressure, not just on Long Beach, but just overall teams in general. But I definitely think there is a lot of pressure for us that we want to perform and be, the number one team in the country. That's what a lot of people expect out of us,
Yeah.
along with like UCLA, Hawaii,
100%.
UC Irvine, and Pepperdine.
Hmm.
But I definitely think that Long Beach State, being the defending reigning national champions, there's always going to be a target on their back, and there's always
Yeah.
pressure. But from what I see from the players and the coaches, when they're out there performing and even before and after games, they're loose, relaxed. And I think, they've learned a lot, especially from last year.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of pressure for them.
Yeah.
They're out and just, playing the best volleyball they can.
Hmm. You know, and talk about pressure. If there's any team in the collegiate volleyball stage that knows how to handle pressure, it's got to be Long Beach State, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have this fresh, we got new players like Chris, Gayek, and Jordan, to name a few, no, that have an incredible background in volleyball. Chris just being athletic, volleyball player, as well as his father, previously playing for Long Beach State. We have a new coaching staff. Is there pressure? I know you mentioned that there is a limited amount of pressure in this team, but I do know that it is going to be the senior season for, valuable players like Skylar Varga, Connor Bloom, Dane Hillis, and they're going to be proving to everyone and giving it their all since it is the last run for these guys. Um, and I think that is one of the main things that we have to look out for from the season is that they're not only, I know Coach McCray has mentioned that they're not focusing on the past, they're not focusing on the present game, but they're focusing on the next game. And that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing that he mentioned. And I know that these boys right here, they're going to be able to, you know, just give it their all, right? And I want you to talk more about that because you do have a relationship with Dane Hillis and the boys, and this is their last season. So what can you say about that?
Obviously, first off, I would like to say that all the guys, just great people, just great volleyball players, but more
Hmm.
just personal aspect, just great guys in general. Danny Ellis and I, we both grew up in the same town, so we both have that close hometown connection with us. But I would say that for Skylar and guys like Connor Bloom and Island Dowdy, quick fun fact about Island is he managed to get some more playing time this year, especially in the
Hmm.
game against Long Island. So it was great to see him. Last year, I think he came in for maybe two plays for one game, but it's great to see Island getting some time with him being a senior as
Yeah.
well. But I definitely think that, you guys like Connor Bloom, Skylar Varga, and Island and along with Ben Braun too. I would say all those seniors, they want to play professionally, especially with Skylar Varga getting picked up on the Canadian national team last season for the VNL was just great experience for him and just great national exposure as he had a great match in the final set for Canada back then. But I definitely would say that those guys are looking to just finish out their season and, they want to, give it their all and just have fun with it. I mean, we've won national championship for the fourth time in school history, and the men's volleyball team is the only program in the Long Beach State Athletics that has a national championship to their name, as no other school or no other athletics department, whether it be women's basketball, baseball, softball, have not been able to bring that. And one thing that I did want to mention, as we were talking about Coach Knight before, he's the only player that has been a part of all four national championships, winning it as a player in 91 and then winning it as a coach in 1819 and most recently 2025. I definitely think that this team, especially with those outside hitters, middle blockers, and liberos coming in, they definitely want another championship to finish off their senior season. We saw it last year with Nato Dickinson and Satir Saponis, who came in as seniors and going out as champions. And I think these guys want to do it one more time to just have fun with it and also, bring another championship to Long Beach State. And another factor that has been huge in terms of the volleyball stuff has been basically Long Beach State winning it this year from all the way from the 11 to 12 season. The team who has won it in the odd year would win it in the even year next. Then it would transition as it went from UC Irvine winning back-to-back. Then in 2013, and then actually I would say it was 2012, and in 2013 UCI wins. 2014-15 Loyola Chicago wins. 2016-17 Ohio State wins. Long Beach State wins 18-19. There was no one in 2020. 21 and 22 we saw a huge thing with Hawaii winning their first ever volleyball national championships. Then UCLA winning in 23-24 and Long Beach State winning in 25. So I definitely think there has been parity in terms of that. So these guys want to, continue to cycle and win their second national championship in a row to continue it.
Yeah, so what this team is doing differently that, I've, have like mentioned and have noted is that they're always looking for the next game. And I love that you have, given us some previous facts about each team winning their back-to-back. I think this team definitely has what it takes this season. But we're gonna definitely have some challenges, which is what Long Beach State is known for. We could see it in the last season, Long Beach State versus UCLA. We know the team UCLA and Pepperdine and UCI, they're gonna be competitive schools to beat. But what I'm excited about is the opportunities that Coach McRae is given to these new rookies like Jackson Christ and like Gayak. And we've seen that from our previous matches, which was, the North American Challenge or the previous matches this weekend, is how much these boys knows how to communicate and read from the court and read and learn from players like Skylar Varga, like Ben Braun, who are seniors of the team.
And I would also like to mention Jake Pizzanti, who came off the bench this year. And what I mean by bench is he redshirted last year and was on the bench last season. So he's been able to get a lot of playing time this season due to players like De'Aris McCraven leaving Long Beach State to go play pro and also being a senior himself last year, giving Jake an opportunity to play a great position at setter. And sorry, I meant to say Jackson Christ for De'Aris, and then Jake Pizzanti coming at setter and replacing all-star national player and freshman of the year, Moni Nikolov, who's now playing over in Russia. So that Jake has been a great setter. He's learned from Moni, I feel like, the way he sets the ball. And I feel like even guys like Skylar Varga, who has to set the ball sometimes as an outside, has helped Jake as well work on his game. And even over the summer, Jake worked on a lot of his game too. Um, so I definitely think he's been a really key freshman player. And one thing that you mentioned about challenges, Bree, is there's going to be injury challenges. We saw it
Yeah.
last year, Saponis not being able to play halfway through the season and
Hmm.
the season. Daniil Hirshengovich injuring his ankle at the end of the season, not being able to play. I definitely think they have that next man up mentality, but with a smaller roster and stuff with 18 players, I think that definitely is a challenge where you don't have a 25-man roster and say, okay, we can have this guy come and play. Obviously, 18 players, it's a perfect amount, but it means a lot of these guys are going to get more playing time, and there's going to be positional battles, especially at the oppo with Daniil and Woj. We've seen McRae doing this system where he would go and play Woj one night and then he'd play Daniil the next night. I think that is a great just set mindset for
Yeah.
him. I love that. And also, Daniel is coming in as a libero now, and Coach McRae bringing in a two-set libero system. We had that as a starting lineup last year, but overall this year we haven't seen it at all. So
Yeah.
I think it's great to see um, just that style and play from this men's volleyball team and how they've done it. But I'd like to switch over now from our men's volleyball team to the men's basketball team, who recently had a huge win on the road over Cal State Northridge, Long Beach State's men's volleyball team. They started out not being that great. A lot of new players coming in, a lot of guys leaving due to NIL money, going to other schools, like Shaquille Bender going to Manhattan, or Shaquille actually coming in from Manhattan, and other guys being transferred out to other schools, and players coming in, like Rob Diaz coming in from a junior college, and Isaiah Lewis also transferring out and getting freshmen like Gavin Sykes, Petr Mastorovic, and Leopold Levanian.
Yeah.
Those guys have been really key. Obviously,
Yeah.
it takes some adjust to the way Coach Chris Acker is coaching them. Obviously, those first 2 months were definitely a grind, and I think the team just had to get into a groove. Obviously, coming up with a win every game, you never know what you're going to get. But I definitely think Long Beach has battled um, throughout their most recent games. Obviously, you went to the game over
Hmm.
for the 15-mile rivalry
Yep.
for the match up against Fullerton.
Yeah.
Obviously, against Fullerton, the Beach lost by 10, but they managed to get it on the road against Northridge the following
Yeah.
next 2 days, which was a great response from the team. And I definitely think there's a lot of just good communication, but they got to find their open shooters and get their 3-point shots made. Obviously, shooting from three is definitely hard, but I definitely think that the rest of the way, it's all Big West. They're going to be facing these teams twice. So I think they'll definitely get a good matchup
Yeah.
for the teams that they've obviously played at home and going on the road and vice versa. But overall, I think our men's basketball team definitely has a chance to make the tournament despite missing the tournament last year, which was their first tournament miss since the 2004 season, which is a pretty incredible run for Long Beach State to go to every single conference tournament that year. But I definitely think last year was kind of not really a wake up call per se, but I would say it was more of so, okay, we're getting new players in on the transfer portal and the NIL money coming in, losing guys, getting new players. It definitely took some, I would say, definitely took some time to just build this team up, especially the returners from last year coming in, along with the new guys sticking around. So I'm excited to see what this team can do for the rest of this 2025/26 NCAA men's basketball season. Brianna, what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on this season
Well,
in general so
as you
far?
mentioned, there was a lot that goes on within the men's basketball team. You know, this is going to be the first season with a completely half new roster with Petar Mastrovic or Levilin or Gavin Sykes. And, you know, the men's basketball team have struggled during the season. They're finishing last season they finished 7-25 overall and 3-17 in Big West play. And now they're, focusing on they got like a little bit of loss, but now they're doing a little bit better with the new roster with Chris Acker, last year being his first year as head coach, and he now knows how to read the team and what to do and what not to do. We've seen players like Gavin Sykes as well as um, Rob Diaz come in and swept the entire play and been an amazing, talented two players of the season. Yeah, I like to talk about the last game, which was last few games, which was the men's basketball team versus Cal State
CSUN
Fullerton. Yeah.
and Santa Barbara, which was the last home game
Yeah.
before
But
state.
Cal State Fullerton, man, that was an interesting game, especially for a photographer and a content creator and videographer going into that game and being our, rivalry game. That was insane. The Beach were finished 10, I would say the Beach did a really good job, even though they finished 10 points less than the Cal State Fullerton Titans. I know that there was so much distraction. I've never been in a room that has been so loud and so supportive within their own team. And I know like I was talking to another photographer, 422 West, and we both felt the room and we both knew the pressures that Cal State Long Beach had to offer. And I do know that, Rob Diaz came off that night. He really did come off that night as one of the, major players that helped the team, get those points as well as Gavin Sykes. I know for another player that did really well was JJ Chavoyski, who, came off and, became that support system within the team. I do know that, you know, there has been it's been interesting to see the freshman players and new players like Sykes and LaVillen and Dallas Washington come in you know, from their previous schools into this team. And I think that right now we're doing a great job at understanding what other people's strengths and weaknesses are and continuing on to add those strengths and weaknesses into the team and work collectively as a whole. I think we do lack right now consistency, but I think we're learning what it is, like I mentioned, everyone's weaknesses and strengths, and we're learning what the team needs to keep going. And I think that's what the Long Beach State team has to offer right now. What do you
Yeah, I would definitely just add on to that bench, helping out, players coming off the bench, Coach Acker going in and making some quick substitutions. But I will say, Bree, that coming into this game for you specifically going up to Cal State Fullerton, that gym, they can get rocking, especially for a rivalry game. But I think the Long Beach State students, when Fullerton comes to town, they do a
Mhm.
great job
Yeah.
at giving it right back to the Fullerton players. And
Yeah.
I remember last year, the student section had a great support for that game against Cal State, Fullerton for that game. And if you go back and take a look at the highlights from the game, you'll notice Long Beach State was wearing a different jersey than they normally would wear on the road. That is their specialty blackout jersey, which is basically a fourth jersey, having their yellow be their alternate, white be the home, and their normal black and white jersey be the away jersey. So in all specialty blackout jersey against Fullerton, they have worn that also against UC Irvine. So those jerseys are kind of the
Mm.
special rivalry game
Yeah.
jerseys that Long Beach State
Yeah.
has.
Those jerseys look amazing and they look amazing. Like I know like when we were there, I'm pretty sure and I'm gonna be this is a hot take, but I love the away jerseys more than our home jerseys. I think it's a super blackout and it's gives off that aggression that Long Beach State has to offer. Yeah, I wanted to ask you would you say has been someone that stands out within the men's basketball season right now?
Obviously, two players that come to mind for me would be Gavin Sykes being that leader as a freshman, along with Petr Mastorovic.
Hmm.
But I would say one player that I think that really has kind of definitely rose through the ranks of this team so far is Rob Diaz, as
Yeah.
he did from junior college, like I said earlier. So I think it's a really good
Hmm.
thing to see Diaz shine, and he's from the LA Long Beach area,
Yeah.
so great to have a local presence in terms of players. And a lot of
Yeah.
the players that Coach Acker has wanted to get into Long Beach is that LA/Long Beach type of area to bring it to the beach, especially focusing with our athletic department being that Long Beach built. I definitely think our team, especially the men's basketball team, has done a great job at getting local players and helping them out within the community as well.
Yeah. Definitely one player that you mentioned is Rob Diaz. Rob Diaz has been consistent towards all the games that I've been to and pretty much this entire season. I think Rob Diaz is one of those players that have been underlooked. We do know Gavin Sykes has been amazing freshman, and that's not to say that Rob Diaz is better, but Rob Diaz does need some more support in what he does. I think he's, during that Fullerton game, I know that he has, made a lot of consistency and has been one of the players that given his strengths within this entire season and within that game.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I think what do you think that Long Beach has to do differently to, do better within the men's basketball season and the rest of the season?
I would probably have to say, Breed, that this team right now, they definitely are competing, but I would probably say either, start shooting 3 pointers and trying to find open shots and also setting good screens. Long Beach State has definitely been playing really good defense so far throughout the season, but the offense needs to start helping out in terms of shooting a deep. Obviously, it's definitely hard to shoot a three, but I would say overall, shooting the ball has been kind of a
Yeah.
key thing that Long Beach State needs to do. I've noticed that they have been just kind of passing the ball and holding on to it, and they got to get their shots off quicker and just
Yeah.
find open mans. And even just by setting screens at the top and letting their guys drive through the hole, I definitely think that this team has a chance to just dominate the rest of the way. Obviously, they're going to run into some tough teams like Hawaii and UC Irvine. So I definitely think those will be some key opponents that Long Beach State has to face, especially with the game against Hawaii this weekend.
Yeah, so just as you mentioned, I think Long Beach State, for me, this might be a hot take again, but I do think that Long Beach State has to play a little bit riskier than just, holding the ball and I think in the offense way, they do need to focus on practicing their 3-point shooters and stuff like that and working as a team collectively to know what the other team's weaknesses are and using that to their advantage. I do think that the men's basketball team, I would like to say I want to see them play more riskier in, the offense way, right? Because what I've seen from the Cal State Fullerton is how much they hold the ball and how much they're comfortable in just holding the ball and just passing around and just letting the other team bring the offense. I think that's one of the things that I like to mention from the last game is that Fullerton had an incredible consistency within shooting and within their offense. And I do think that that overlooked Long Beach State's defense. And I do want to see more of that, Long Beach State coming back around and playing it riskier for the other teams.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely think that this team, they're going to progress more as this season goes on. But do I think they're going to make the tournament? Yeah, I mean, we might get in as a last seed, but I definitely think that this Long Beach State team has what it takes to go um, make a deep run like they did in 2024 to get to this title game. Obviously, it's going to be a tougher road due to being a newer team and newer system, but I think, this team has what it takes if we start stringing wins
Yeah.
together.
I'm excited to see, from our recent transfers and new athletes. I'm very excited to see these players go out and about and do their thing within the season as well as work with Chris Acker. And I'm excited to see what Acker has to give within his, more years within Long Beach State.
Mhm.
Let's go over, the women's basketball season right now. So, Justin, what do you have to say about this team?
Overall, it hasn't been a great season for Coach Amy Wright and her staff. Long Beach State has only won two games this season overall. A lot of the women either transferred or graduated last season, along with the staff from the Long Beach State women's team moving as well. I definitely think that Coach Amy's in a position where she has to, deal with newer staff members and also kind of bring in a new system of play. Obviously, last year we got to see Haley Wright get a lot of playing time, and with her second year at the beach, she's done a really good job alongside Jakina Brown, Jones Brown as well. So both of them have been a real kind of key players for this Long Beach State women's basketball team. And I even would say Kenna Kai, who's been there for a long time, she has kind of been that leader and uh, I would say kind of spokeswoman for the team overall. And I definitely think that she has had a lot of say in helping this team. Obviously, they've had some really tough opponents. Obviously, conference play has been tough for the women's team. They managed to get a win over Northridge, and they did beat Hope International University, AD. I think they're Division Two for basketball that they managed to get their
Yeah.
first victory of the season. Both
Hmm.
of those wins coming at the Pyramid. So I definitely would say they haven't been able to get a lot of wins on the road side of things, but if they can just continue it and just start, you know, working out throughout the next few games, they take on UC Riverside. Um, I think over this week, so it'll definitely be a interesting style of play that they can do. Obviously, I don't think we're going to get into the Big West tournament this year, but if they could just finish off strong, I think it would just be
Yeah.
a really good kind of setting up success for next season.
Yeah, and one of the players that I like to mention yet is that has done a phenomenal job has been Rosie Acott. And she's a transfer from Australia, but just her consistency within her three-pointers as well as knowing how to communicate with the team has been a brilliant job. I think this women's basketball team has been it's been a tough year, and I do know that we have played some schools that have been D2 and we've lost that, and I think that's been a constant pressure and constant challenge for us. But I
Mhm.
think Rosie Acott and Jacoya Brown has been two of the players that have proven to us, their strengths, and like you mentioned, we have seniors like Kenan Kaw, who already knows what it's like to succeed and knows what a win is, and seeing that communication within her as well as the new freshmen and new rookies, that's been exciting to see.
Mhm. And overall, I think, you have people like Rosie coming in from Australia, completely coming in from a new area and
Hmm.
a different system than what those players are used to. Obviously, we've had a lot of Australian players on the women's team before, so definitely it's nothing new to just the setting for Long Beach State, but I definitely think having those new players come in and learning a new system with a new coaching staff,
Yeah.
and especially for the returning players from last year, were used to a system last year, and then they get new staff coming in, and they have a new system. And I definitely think there has been some really just good quality basketball, but overall, everyone's still trying to figure it out. I think, and especially for Coach Wright having to deal with a new coordinators and new people in her staff too. I definitely think it is something that can present a challenge to a coach. And this is Amy's third year as a head coach, and I definitely think she has been getting used to it over the past 2 years. But I think Coach Wright has done a really good job um, overall
Yeah.
as a head coach at the beach.
Yeah, it's been a difficult season for the coach and as well as the players. I think what they need to do differently, and I wrote down four things that they need to do differently, is they need to limit turnovers, control the game, and they need to know how to, you know, defend consistently and grow development of the younger players and give those. And I think that's one thing that we've done well is giving these opportunities for new players and for the overall team. I just think that, Coach Amy Wright has mentioned, and I talked to JD and Bruce about this weekend, is Coach Amy has mentioned that they don't even get through, their full workout days or their full practice days. And I think that's what we need to focus on is within that practice, knowing our strengths and weaknesses and working towards reading the other team's strengths and weaknesses. Um, I think that's what we need to do differently and I think there is kind of a sort of level of pressure within the recent players as well as the coach. And one of the big things that we talked about with JD and Bruce is who's going to stay and who's not going to stay.
Hmm.
This season has been tough overall, and I think it's one of the seasons that we've done pretty bad in, but that's not to mention that we do got talented players, and I just think that they just need to kind of, wake up and work together collectively to know what it takes to succeed.
Yeah, and overall, like I mentioned earlier, having new coaches and new players coming in, it definitely takes a lot of time for these players to mesh well. And I think just due to new NCAA rules with transfers and also NIL deals and incentives for money have definitely been a huge thing
Yeah.
for players leaving mid majors like Long Beach State to go to bigger NCAA Division I schools. But I definitely think it's going to take some time for them to
Mhm.
obviously, season's almost over for them as they ended in March. But overall, I think, these last few games for the last month and a half, I'd say just go out, have fun, and play the best basketball
Yeah.
you can. That's my two takes into that in terms of for just women's basketball at Long Beach State. But
Yeah.
Brianna, I did want to get to something that you wanted to do for our podcast that would be starting at the end of every show. Would be Brianna would give me a scenario, and
Yeah.
we would have to choose a specific scenario. So, Brianna, what's your specific scenario
Yeah.
for the
So
first
thank
week?
you for turning it over to me. So I'm gonna do. I don't know if you guys know if you guys follow SideQuest blogs. JD, Bruce, and I used to do this fun question of the day segment, and I had a fun. And I'm gonna do that for every single show we have. So our fun question of the day is: if you had to choose three Long Beach State players to be in your apocalypse team, who would you choose and why? And you can't pick the same players as me. So I'm gonna go first, and my three players are gonna be Ben Braun, Kellen Larson, and Jackson Christ. Why? Ben Braun, could block and protect. Like he's almost 7 feet tall, and he is an impressive middle blocker and one of the best of our defensive blockers of the team. Kellen Larson would protect the back row as always. One of the best liberos of the country. We know how skilled he is with doing his digs and knowing how to protect the team overall. And Jackson Christ, the new fresh powerhouse, plays also for the national team and is just getting ready stacked with aces and skills. Those are my three players. I'm gonna hand it over to you now, Justin.
So for me, I would choose Daniil Hirshengovich, Connor Bloom, and Skylar Varga. Why those three? One reason, they're super tall, and number two, they can see like if danger is far ahead or whatnot for an apocalyptic team, I'd say. And they also know how to just hit the ball really well when it comes to a volleyball standpoint. And they're just really good guys, and they have each other's backs, especially the three of them being captains as well.
Yeah. And not to mention, I also chose Ben Braun because we know that Ben Braun is an impressive fan of, Star Wars and as well as Legos and stuff like that. And he has mentioned to me within his interview of you know, how skillful and knowledgeable he is of playing games as well as um you know knowing how to defend a team as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are the three that I'd like to mention. And yeah, so we're now gonna head over to the final talks in the final segment of our show. Every week we're gonna talk about what we're up to and what we're gonna be focusing on. So tell the viewers you know what this LBSU Sports Show has to offer now, since this is all yours, Justin.
Yeah, so I would say the LBSU Sports Show, we started out with me just kind of doing it a little short segments over on Instagram, and now Brianna and I decided to collab to do a LBSU Sports Show
Yeah.
podcast where we can discuss more in-depth details for each team, talk about the players, recent games recaps, and just give our thoughts on the overall week for each week for the LBSU teams in general. As the season progresses for the NCAA spring and winter season, we will be discussing women's water polo that will be coming up very shortly, along with the Long Beach State Dirtbags baseball season coming up to the team. They have a lot of new players coming in and coaching staff coming in for Long Beach State as well. And we will also be discussing the new softball team as legendary head coach Kim Souter um, has retired from Long Beach State last season. So this will be the first season under their new head coach. And Brianna, you will also be doing a lot of track and field and cross
Yeah.
country
Yeah,
for
that's
Quest Vlogs in 22 West stuff.
yeah, so that's what I like to talk about with
I'd love
this.
to hear about that
Yeah.
as well and tell the viewers what you're going to
Yeah.
do with that.
So I'm gonna be covering beach volleyball as well as track and field, and those are the two sports that I'm most excited about within other than the men's volleyball and the LB Dirtbags. Another thing that I wanted to point out about this show is that we're focusing on getting um special guests on the show. And yeah, you can tell more about that if you want. But yeah, that's what we're going to be focusing on. This is probably going to be consistent. And we're going to be talking about upcoming content with JD, Bruce, and Justin for SideQuest blogs. And yeah, just recent updates with Justin within each sport. I think it's going to be fun and I can't wait.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to watch this week's game tomorrow at Pepperdine
Hmm.
for Long Beach State, you could check that out through the Big Ten Plus network. Obviously, you do have to have a subscription to the Big Ten Plus to watch that game. But the next game that would be televised via ESPN Plus will be the
Yeah.
battle against UCLA next weekend at the Walter Pyramid on February 6th. Obviously, that will be a rematch of the last two national championship matches between both the Bruins and the Beach. So
Yeah.
it'll be a raucous crowd at the Pyramid. So if you are in the area, definitely come out and support the Beach in their battle against the Bruins next week. And this weekend, the Beach will be taking on UC Riverside and Hawaii for a pair of men's basketball games, which always Hawaii draws a big crowd for any sport against Long Beach State. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Excited.
we are signing off for our first official podcast of the LBSU Sports Show. Alongside me is Brianna, and I'm your host, Justin. Go Beach.
And before we do sign off, please follow us on SideQuest Blogs. That is our main collaborative sports media page, as well as Justin Gantz, his own personal page, and mine, Brianna Bree W. And this is gonna be posted. The full thing's gonna be posted on YouTube. My YouTube, Brianna Wangsu Pakpan, which you could just type in my name. And small clips of this is gonna be aired on our Instagram. So yeah, see you
Yeah,
guys next week.
yeah, and stick around next week for some more LBSU sports news and recent updates for all the Long Beach State men's athletics and women's athletics as well. Go Beach.
Go Beach.